Have you ever planned a task, thinking it'll be quick and easy, only to find it took way longer? Welcome to the planning fallacy, a cognitive bias where we underestimate the time needed for a task, despite knowing past tasks took longer. This concept, coined by psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky in 1979, shows our optimistic bias in estimating time. We often think we're immune to delays that affected us before, a clear optimism bias. This isn't just personal, it affects businesses, governments, and even large-scale projects. The Sydney Opera House, for example, was planned for 4 years of construction. It took 14. Why does this happen? Several factors contribute. Firstly, we focus on future plans, not past experiences. Our brain's planning center, the prefrontal cortex, is optimistic. It's wired to prioritize ideal outcomes. Secondly, we ignore inevitable delays. Things like unforeseen complications or simply over-optimism play a big role. It's not just about being bad at time estimates. It's about how our brain approaches planning. Interestingly, this bias spans cultures. It's a universal human tendency. Studies show that whether in Asia, Europe, or the Americas, people often fall prey to the planning fallacy. It's not about intelligence or experience. Seasoned professionals and novices alike tend to underestimate time. The impact of the planning fallacy is significant. It can lead to missed deadlines, budget overruns, and stress. In extreme cases, it affects economic planning and public policy. For instance, infrastructure projects often run over budget due to this bias. It's not just a small miscalculation. It's a systematic underestimation. But there's hope. Awareness is the first step. By recognizing this bias, we can start to counteract it. Effective strategies include referencing similar past tasks for more accurate estimates. This approach, called reference class forecasting, helps in grounding our estimates in reality. Another method is considering the worst-case scenario. It sounds pessimistic, but it's about being realistic. By planning for potential delays and setbacks, we can create more accurate timelines. Interestingly, groups are not immune to this bias. Group projects often suffer from the same optimistic misjudgments. Collective decision-making doesn't automatically lead to better estimates. It often leads to a consensus on unrealistic timelines. This phenomenon is known as groupthink. So what can we learn from the planning fallacy? It teaches us about the limits of our intuition. Our brain, while amazing, has its biases. Understanding these biases helps us make better decisions. In the context of planning, it means being more realistic about timeframes. By acknowledging our tendency to underestimate, we can adjust our expectations. This leads to better planning, less stress, and more successful outcomes. In conclusion, the planning fallacy is a reminder of our cognitive limits. It's a call to blend optimism with realism. By doing so, we can plan more effectively, achieve our goals, and reduce the stress of unmet expectations. Remember, good planning isn't just about being optimistic, it's about being realistic.